I have absolutely had enough of the Labour Party promoting backwards cultures in this country. It is clear as day at this point that the Labour Party is absolutely petrified of the prospect of losing any of their Muslim voters. We found out recently in a report that came out that in 80 out of 89 of the parliamentary seats in the country where the Muslim population takes up more, it is more than double the national average. Labour holds 80 out of 89 of those seats. They are very, very reliant on the Muslim vote, and it seems like no matter what the cost to society, they will do anything to pander to this community. And we're seeing it here today at PMQs, where quite frankly, I was disgusted because Keir Starmer suggested that he is going to try to block Richard Holden, Tory MP's legislation that he's trying to go through that's going to have a second reading on Friday to ban cousin marriage in this country. I think it's just unfathomable, the idea that a prime minister in this country would think that cousin marriage is a good idea that we should allow in this country. It's messed up. It's wrong. It's bad for the children because they end up born with defects and whatnot. That's not fair on the children. Cousin marriages are often forced marriages, even if they claim that they were voluntary. We know that these are typically forced marriages. This is an extremely backwards practice, okay? I'm not calling here for the eradication of Islam in Britain or anything like that, okay? We're going to have to accept the fact that there are Muslims in this country. But let's promote moderate Islam, okay? If there's going to be Islam in this country. Let's not pander to people who still practice these backwards, bonkers ideologies. It's just beyond belief. We cannot tolerate this in this country. I think it's child abuse to have a child with your first cousin. It's wrong. It's absolutely vile. So we're going to take a look in a moment at that exchange between Richard Holden and Keir Starmer at PMQs today that's going viral and making everyone absolutely furious. But if you're watching live, please get your comments in because I'm keen to see what you guys have to think of this. I think this is an absolutely shocking story. If you're wondering, if you're a usual podcast viewer, what is going on with the podcast this week, we're just going to do this shorter live stream just with me today, as I'm sure you are all aware. There's been a bit of a shake-up and Darren has decided to leave GB News. He's having a go at growing his Substack, which you can go subscribe to and support him at darrengrimes.com. Please go and subscribe to him and support him with donation if you can, because he's out there all alone at the moment fighting for free speech, and he'll be doing a lot of work on there. He will be back, don't worry, but he's got to focus on that for the next week or so. So a little bit of a more low-key stream tonight, but we're going to have fun. Not having fun with what Keir Starmer has suggested, but I will have fun looking at your comments. So let's go to that exchange between Keir Starmer and Richard Holden. Get your comments coming in.
A marriage between first cousins carries significant health issues, many of which aren't even knowable until post-birth. When practiced generation after generation, there is a significant multiplier effect. In addition, the real impacts for the openness of our society and women's rights in our country are also significant. After all, there are significant dynamics in sharing a same set of grandparents. On Friday, this government has a choice to let my bill go through to ban first cousin marriage to committee stage. Will the Prime Minister think again before instructing his whips to block this legislation?
Now listen to his response.
We've taken our position on that bill. Thank you.
That completes Prime Minister's questions.
So there we go. We had Keir Starmer there refusing to engage with Richard Holden's worries about the horrendous health issues that cousin marriage can cause, let alone just the disgusting, vile idea of marrying your cousin regardless of the health defects, and also the fact that it's usually forced marriages. Okay, refuses to engage, completely pandering. Now he says there, we've been clear about our position on this issue. So this is suggesting that Keir Starmer is going to whip his MPs to block this legislation. There will be a second reading of this legislation on Friday, coming from Tory MP Richard Holden, to try and ban cousin marriage. We are getting the suggestion from this that Keir Starmer will whip his MPs, i.e. give them no choice but to vote against this new legislation. Force them into making sure that cousin marriage continue in this country. Why on earth would you want to block that legislation other than to make sure you do not lose the vote of people in this country who are backwards enough to support cousin marriage? I thought, okay, this became a story. We had that independent pro-Gaza MP stand up in the Houses of Parliament and make that speech supporting cousin marriage, a couple months ago or something? And that was the first time that this issue really came to my attention. I mean, it was just bonkers. He was talking about how great it is because it strengthens family ties. And, I'm sorry, I can strengthen family ties by, going out for a nice meal or something with my family, playing a board game with them, playing a bit of Monopoly. I don't need to start, shagging my cousin to have good relationships with my family members. Ew, it's disgusting. So there was that speech, and that sickened me. But I thought, surely, in Britain, this first world country, surely this is something that happens very rarely. There are just a few very backwards people that do this in Britain. But no, I haven't got all the figures with me, but I mean, it was shocking. What was it? Something nearly half of the Pakistani community? Something like that. I haven't got the exact figures on me, so don't quote me on that. Are marrying their cousins. It's a huge number of people in this country. It's horrifying. I think it is monumentally messed up. And this comes from a culture where, in countries that are Muslim countries and the women are all covered up, especially, the most backwards countries with crazy regimes where the women have to be so covered up that you can't even see their faces, they can't talk in public and all of this. If you're a guy, you don't see any other women aside from those in your immediate family because they're all covered up when you go outside and they can't even speak outside, right? In the Taliban, they're making women they're not even allowed to have windows on their houses anymore, right? This is how backwards this is. So what do you do if you can't meet any women out in public? Well, I guess your only option is to marry the people in your family that you know. Ask your uncle if you can marry his daughter. Ew, it's messed up. This is just pandering. And the thing is let's just look at, this has gotten so bad that even the BBC are getting concerned about it now. The BBC have just put out a new BBC in-depth article going into new evidence about the concerning impacts that cousin marriage can have on children's health. I will praise the BBC here. They've actually done some good by putting this up. And this comes after we have had this whole Ramadan thing, obsession with Ramadan, no mention of Lent, Christian holidays completely forgotten. Look, I'm not even a Christian, right? But this is a Christian country, right? Why on earth are we all banging on about Ramadan and completely forgetting about Christian holidays? This is Windsor Castle, okay? So they've had this big Ramadan event. Elliot, one of our new contributors, he's just done a video on this, which is on our YouTube channel, so do check it out, right? So Windsor Castle is beautiful, beautiful castle, no connection with Islam whatsoever. You might say, why isn't this happening in a mosque? But apparently it's got to happen at Windsor Castle, this huge Ramadan event, so we can say, look guys, we absolutely love the Muslim community. And look, I don't have a problem with Ramadan. I've got a problem with cousin marriage, right? Because that's a very backwards part of Islam. These, a tradition to fast during the daytime, look, I don't care. That's fine. I've not got a problem specifically with this tradition. But my question is, why does it feel like it's got more priority over Christian traditions? Why is it that you come to Sadiq Khan's London and you'll see lights and stuff put up in the streets? We at least still get some Christmas angels and whatnot, but you'll see all lights put up for Ramadan and whatnot, and it's like the main event. But then you don't get all these happy Easter lights and banners and events and whatnot. It just doesn't happen, right? So what's going on, guys? It feels like one culture is becoming particularly dominant in this country, and I feel like it's a strange shift in our identity. And then this today, or was this yesterday? Whenever it was, this week, we had another Ramadan event in the Houses of Parliament, and Labour are so excited because they're like, woohoo, we're the first people to do this, and they've had this huge event in Parliament, and Starmer made a speech. Again, you can go and watch Elliot's video that he put out today too, if you want to listen to that speech that Starmer made. And I have to say, it was a very strange speech, because what Starmer essentially did in this speech was, he talks about how great the Muslim community is, but he basically says that everything good in this country came from the Muslim community. It's like everything this country has ever done that's good, everything great we have in this country was all a consequence of the Muslim community. And I'm like, really? That just doesn't quite add up to me. I'm sure there are Muslims who have come to this country as immigrants, and some of them will have, worked hard, paid their taxes, being good people and being moderate Muslims and not engaged in any cousin marriage, wacky shit, and integrated with people. Cool, great. Good for those people. But to act as though like Islam is like this savior, this thing which has like saved the UK and made us an incredible great country, this whole multiculturalism is our strength, like a society can't thrive without it. It is clear pandering. And we had Wes Streeting the other day. I'll get to your comments in just a moment. There was an article which I brought up on the podcast last week. Wes Streeting, if some of you will remember, if you were watching, those of you who are loyal and are here every week, Wes Streeting went to this like I think it was called Muslim Network or Muslim Community Network, some event, launch event, and says Labour has let down Muslim communities. He thinks that Labour doesn't do enough to pander to the Muslim community. Okay? I don't know what planet this man is living on. We had Keir Starmer, Sadiq Khan, always banging on about Islamophobia. We're going to end up with blasphemy laws soon, Islamophobia laws, right? This stuff is coming to the UK, I'm telling you, right? They love the Muslim community. They pander to them all the time. Yet apparently Wes Streeting thinks that we don't enough. And this is starting to have really serious consequences, okay? So it now means that we will not, most likely, have laws put in place that ban cousin marriage. A dangerous practice that endangers kids, increases their chances of being born with defects. It makes them dumber, okay? It's not good from a genetic perspective to marry your first cousin and have kids with them. It's wrong, okay? It's child abuse. Speaking of child abuse, let's not forget about the grooming gangs, guys. Let's not forget, I know that politics moves fast and a week is a long time in politics, but let's not forget, Keir Starmer refused to give us a public inquiry into the grooming gang. So many victims crying out for this. This stuff, we've had more and more people coming out who are, more close to the, people in police forces, whistleblowers and whatnot, saying, the grooming gang problem, this is not just a thing of the past. We often talk in past tense. This is still going on. Our daughters in this country are still being raped. Keir Starmer is allowing that to happen. Why? Oh, he doesn't want to risk losing the Muslim vote. I'm sorry, but if I know that politicians will act in self-interested ways and they'll do things to get votes and whatnot, but do you not have just a little bit of a moral compass where you say, you know what? If it means that little kids are not abused and brutally raped and tortured, I'm willing to take a hit to my popularity. I'm willing to risk losing an election. Have a bit of common decency. But Keir Starmer, he's just got none of it. I mean, I don't even think he's a human being. He's like a robot, honestly. He doesn't have an ounce of charisma in him, so maybe he doesn't have a heart. Anyway, let's get to your comments and see what you guys think of this. You guys have been going mad in the chat. I've been struggling to keep up because I'm not very good at multitasking. That's one thing Darren is better at than I am. We have had a super chat. Let's have a look at this. Thank you very much, Nina. Very much appreciated. We appreciate all of the support that you can give to this channel, because we need it to keep going and doing what we are doing. So she says, would Starmer, I like your spelling of Starmer there, maybe we can call him Starmer the llama lover, because he likes trans llamas, right? That was a video of Darren's that did well. Would Starmer allow one of his kids to marry one of his nieces or nephews? It's sick. The man is disgusting. This is the thing. It is vile. It's child abuse, okay? Not just, well, it's not just, for, you know, as I said, these are often forced marriages, right? So it's not good for women's rights, because women are often forced into marriages, right? They can claim when they do the paperwork and whatnot that it was voluntary, but we know how this stuff works. Who really chooses, of all the 8 billion people on this planet, you know what, the one I want to go for, the one I really want to marry, the one I'm in love with? My cousin. I expect it's probably forced most of the time. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's my suspicion, right? So that's messed up. But for the kids, okay, how would you feel if you were born with an arm missing, right, disabled for the rest of your life, because your parents couldn't choose out of the 8 billion people on the planet anyone else other than their first cousin? Like, it's just messed up. It's just messed up. Let's have a look at some more comments. David says, exactly what planet is Starmer on? Why is the British Prime Minister putting Islam above Christianity? Why? Well, I told you why, David. It's because in 80 out of 89 of the seats that have a Muslim population that is at least double that of the national average, those seats are held by Labour. Also, Wes Streeting, you know what, I'm going to get, I have it somewhere on my computer now. I'm not going to go through and try and find the picture. If you look up Wes Streeting seat general election result, right, you will see that he was on a knife edge, so close to losing his seat, right? There was an independent pro-Gaza MP, nearly kicked him out. It was less than 1,000 votes between them. It was in the hundreds, right? They were like neck and neck. He nearly lost his seat. Okay, you had some Labour MPs did lose their seats because of these pro-Gaza MPs. Everyone thought, oh, they've got such a big majority, such a huge success for the Labour Party at this election, but there were actually some scary losses in there. Jess Phillips nearly lost her seat to one of these scary independent pro-Gaza MPs. She's going to be thinking, and remember, Jess Phillips is the one who replied to Oldham Council and said, sorry, darlings, you're not having an inquiry. We're not going to allow that. We've got the ICSA report. That'll do. She knows that report isn't going to do anything, and didn't even focus on grooming gangs, but she's scared. Wes Streeting, why was he at a Muslim Community Network, whatever it was called, event, saying that Labour has let down Muslim communities, we need to do more, even though they've done loads to pander to the Muslim community? Because he was so close to losing his seat, and he's thinking, next election, I'm going to be gone. If I don't pander to them, I will be gone. It's self-interest first. They are terrified, okay? And we're now hearing that the independent pro-Gaza MPs, they're coming together, they're making a coalition. You may have seen I was on this show on Ben Leo tonight. We spoke to what's his name? Why am I having a mind blank? Someone remind me. The Manchester airport solicitor guy. Why am I having a mind blank? Let me look his name up. I don't know why. What's he called? Ahmed Yaqub, there we go. I don't know why that completely disappeared from my name. We interviewed him, and he's creating an alliance of all these independent, well, he claims that it's not specifically a pro-Muslim, pro-Islam community, pro-Gaza thing, but I think we pretty much could tell that it was, and that they had some pretty backwards views on women, to be honest. I asked him what he thinks about women going outside without being covered and without their man, and I was not impressed by his response. That's fair to say. Right, let's continue having a look at some of your comments. They are coming in thick and fast. Thank you everyone who is tuning in and commenting. It's much appreciated. Let's see. So Charles White says, I hope Reform UK will roll this back. I hope Zia will be on board with that. He loves England. Yeah, there have been really mixed reviews on the Reform Party taking on Zia Youssef as chairman. So Zia Youssef is a British Muslim. That's what he describes himself as. And some people have said, oh, this means that the Reform Party will be soft on Islam. And that was right before we had that quite controversial clip come out from the Winston Marshall podcast where Nigel Farage went on there and he spoke about Islam and said, like, look, we have to do something to get votes from the Muslim community because, you know, they're a huge growing number. Remember, they have a heck of a lot more kids than the rest of us. So even if we don't import any more people of this religion, that the numbers in the UK will continue growing compared to the rest of us. And so you're not going to win an election without, you know, if you make the Muslim community absolutely despise you. And the reality is, and you know, if you look at the site, you might disagree. You've got to be practical, is what I say. And you guys might disagree with what I'm saying here and say that I'm pandering to Islam, but I'm just trying to be practical and realistic here. Islam is an absolutely enormous religion all over the world. It is absolutely huge, right? But they're not all extremists. Many of them are moderates. Those people that are moderates, some of them will hold views that I disagree with, right? So the ones that are moderate, most of them will still be wearing something around their head. They won't have their face covered, but they'll have their hair covered. I disagree with that. I think that women should be able to have their hair down, but they're going to exist, right? Whatever. You want to cover your hair. This is not necessarily the end of the world to me. I'm scared about the most extremist stuff, right? So I would love to see some people in government who are willing to put their foot down and be absolutely clear about what the radical parts of Islam are that they reject in this country and they do not want, that are not compatible at all with British culture, and insist that these people must integrate, because if you read the Quran literally, it will say that you should not make friends with non-Muslims. Now, there are Muslims who are more moderate and don't take it literally and will ignore that and will integrate, right? They can live in this country. I don't mind if they're in this country, right? But the people that isolate themselves and the people that engage in vile behaviours like cousin marriage, I'm sorry, but there is no tolerance for you in this country. And I hope that Zia, who is a moderate Muslim, will be willing for the Reform Party to stand firm on this stuff. Someone's got to stand up to it. It is messed up. It is absolutely messed up. We cannot pander to extremists in this country. Right, let's see. I'm not very good at reading comments and talking at the same time. Paul's pointed out they did a recount at the that West Streeting election because it was like so close. Ashley says, "Is your name Chloe?" Yes. Well done you. You figured it out. My name is Chloe. I am Chloe Dobbs. Dobbs and Bob's hair has gone short. No, it hasn't. My hair is this long. You know, I haven't had it cut since August, actually. I need to get it cut again. It won't be going bob short. My mum always tells me I should get it cut in a bob. She thinks it looks cute, but it's not going to happen until I'm middle-aged. There's so many of your comments that I want to look at. We won't get time to get through to all of them, but let's try and remember Rayna with all them Muslim men pleading for their votes. We know what's going on. Yeah, there was, I can't remember the exact context, but there was that video of Angela Rayna. She was talking about Gaza, I'm pretty sure, sat in I think a mosque, meeting with the Muslim community. Surprisingly, the Muslim community that was there to talk with her was all men. There were no women in sight, because I guess the women, they're not allowed to, you know, go out, but they're all at home. They're not allowed to come and meet MP Angela Rayna. I mean, it was a very, very strange state of affairs, and it was clear. It was very, very clear what was going on there. Frankie says Iraq allows exceptionally young girls to be married. What religion is practiced there? Exactly, shameful. Exactly. This is what I was pointing out, is there are extremists. Okay, there are people who have extreme interpretations of Islam, who believe in this kind of backward stuff, cousin marriage, marrying young girls who are underage and this and that. We cannot tolerate that in this country. We're going to have to be very clear. These are the values in this country. If you don't like it, lump it. You can be a Muslim, that's fine, but you're going to have to be a moderate one. Okay, you're going to have to be a very moderate one. And you're going to have to integrate. You're going to have to let your women be free to work and whatever, right? Doesn't mean they have to be forced to work, but they need to have choice. They need to be able to decide who they're going to marry, okay? And all of this stuff. Someone needs to put their foot down, because I've just had enough. This person, Hayim, says, within Sharia law, obligatory lies, sastakia, a form of deception. That is why you don't see the so-called moderate Muslims voice concern or denounce Hamas. For example, yeah, so there are some, you're talking about Sharia law, but just like the Quran in general, there are scary things in the Quran, right? But that doesn't mean that every single Muslim takes everything in there literally. If you look at Christianity, I'm sure you'll find, I cannot say that I have read the Bible or the Quran cover to cover, but there's backwards homophobic stuff in Christianity as well. Catholics and whatnot, especially, not really huge fans of gay people back in the day, but it's moved forward, right? Modern Christians, there will be some of them who are still homophobic, but modern Christians, right, most of them, they're cool with gay people. They haven't got a problem with it, okay? But Islam hasn't quite progressed in the same way, or at least that's my observation. Ashley, okay, another topic. Let's make things slightly different. Chloe, did you notice the number of migrants who came across the border over these 3 days? Yes, so we've had a lot of people. We had, I think it was it on Sunday, we had over 500 migrants cross the channel in one day. Shocking stuff, really. Especially for this time of year when it's cold, but we've had a few sunny days. It's still cold, but it's sunny and flat and not very windy, right? So we've had more and more boats coming across. We've got Keir Starmer's government on track for an potentially a significant increase in the number of small boats that cross in the time span of a year. In the year, once we get to July, we'll have an idea of the figures, right, of how many crossed in their first year in power. But we've had over, I think, what was it, a few weeks ago, we had it reported that 25,000 had crossed since Starmer came to power. And, he's only been in power, 6-7 months? So we'll potentially be on track for maybe 40 to 50,000 coming across within a year, which is a big increase, right? Because Rishi Sunak, he got it down to 30,000. The peak was 45,000, right? It would be interesting if Keir Starmer hits a new record and goes above 45,000. That will kill the idea that he is smashing the gangs. We've seen a few bits of progress in that there's now a change in the rules where the French police are able to get into the water up to 300 metres into the water, because it used to be the case that once a boat hits the water, they're not allowed to touch it. That's it, gone, goodbye, even if they literally could just step in and get their toes a little bit wet. Apparently that wasn't allowed. So yeah, so that's a good change, but this is just baby stuff, right? They haven't got the tenacity to really make a difference. I do not see this getting under control under Starmer. We've had the number of migrant hotels increase since Starmer took power. Increase, it's gone up. Now they've told us, I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's 38,000 people living in these hotels now, migrants living in these hotels now, which is a shocking figure and costing us a huge amount. Remember that the asylum system is costing us nearly 6 billion quid a year, right? I nearly said a day then, but that would be a bit exaggerated. A year, right? That's a huge amount of money. Bear in mind, we've got the winter fuel payment cut. That's putting pensioners in a lot of trouble. That is only saving us 1.5 billion apparently, right? Just to put that into context, right? I know I've made that comparison a few times, but I think it's important to put it into context, right? This is costing us a huge amount. Labour haven't got the tenacity to do anything about it. This is not going to look good. And I don't understand, why don't you just sort it out, right? Because if you just sort this out, it's not that hard. Turn the boats around, whatever else you need to do. They cancelled Rwanda. They literally could have just kept Rwanda and that probably would have done something. Because I met people in Calais who, before the general election back in May, who you may have seen, I've been in this Channel 4 show. You don't actually see this part of the interview in the Channel 4 edit, which is annoying. But they were all saying that they are waiting. They're scared of Rwanda, so they're waiting for the general election to make sure Keir Starmer gets into power to cross, right? If Keir Starmer had kept Rwanda, then reform might not be surging up in the polls. If they literally just sort out the immigration thing, right, then reform will not smash them. They'll be all right. But reform keeps climbing up and up, topping the polls, because it's like the number one issue that people care about in this country. But they just don't get it. Here they are instead talking about how the Muslim community has saved this country and is what is responsible for all of Britain's greatness. I mean, come on, guys. Read the bloody room. Anyway, let's see if we've got anything else spicy in the comments before we bring things to an end. Thank you everyone who has tuned in. Very, very much appreciate this. This is an important thing. Let's end on this comment. Wake up, 95% of all terrorist crimes in the last 20 years have been by Islamists. That includes the Irish problems. Now, I don't have the exact stats to hand to verify that, but I expect Keith is probably right there. Okay? How many attacks? I was furious. When was it? Yesterday? Or yesterday we had another attack in Germany? Was it yesterday or the day before? Another car ramming attack in Germany. I was just furious. More people, 2 people died, up to 30 people injured. Okay, we had right before the German elections, we had both a car ramming in Munich by an Afghan asylum seeker. We had a stabbing by an Afghan. We had that horrible. Okay, people have been up in arms about what the exact motives of this guy was, but we had the Christmas market car ramming where we had that poor little boy killed right before Christmas. He didn't get to see Christmas and his Christmas presents that he was all excited for. It breaks my heart. What's happening in places like Germany, that's what's going to happen here. Do you want to live in a state of affairs where we have an Islamist attack every single week? Now, it's important for me to qualify here. I am not suggesting that every single person that comes across on a dinghy is an Islamist terrorist. I'm sure the vast majority of them are lovely people who just want a better life, okay? I've met these people, and yeah, most of them are absolutely lovely, and they come from heartbreaking situations, and I understand why they're leaving France. The French treat them like absolute shit, and they give them deportation letters saying you need to find a way to get out the country within 7 days. They don't give them a flight to Rwanda to get out the country. They just say, figure it out, get on a boat, get on a lorry, right? That's what I saw with my eyes, so I get it, okay? But this is the problem, is even if 0.001% of them are radical Islamists who are taking advantage of this free pass to get into Britain, where you can break in on a dinghy, right? And they go on to commit attacks, okay? That's horrendous. It's absolutely horrendous. And it's not just terrorist attacks I'm talking about assaults on women and girls as well. Again, most of them are probably alright guys, but they come from different cultures, okay? Where attitudes to women are different, and we see story after story after story of sexual assault, rape, etc. And, you know, teenage girls being harassed for their phone numbers outside school gates and whatnot, because they come from countries where it's normal to marry teenagers. That's just what they know, right? I'm fed up of it. I've had enough. I've absolutely had enough. We will be like Germany, having attacks every single week before you know it. I hope that doesn't happen, but that's what I predict if we don't do something about this. Anyway, I'm losing my voice. I've got a sore throat. So that's enough for tonight. Thank you very much, everyone, for tuning in. I really, really appreciate it. I apologise it's not the full shebang reason podcast tonight, but I'm sure we'll be back soon. So see you all guys next time. Have a good evening, everyone.